Hey everyone, this is a very important car to me. In 2004, I found this car in Canmore, Alberta. It was owned by a gentleman there that never really used it much and bought it for a good client here in Victoria, BC. Um, it's a 71 Ferrari 246 Dino. When we bought it, I remember we paid 75,000 US for it, and everybody thought we were absolutely crazy. Paid way too much. A Dino can't be worth that much. And over the years, it increased in value over time, and it just sort of allowed you to spend a little bit more money, make the car better where it was weak. But always, this car drove well. We got it with 48,000 kilometers. It's got, or 47,000 kilometers. It's got 50,500 on it now. My pal owned it from 2004 till 2010, and then we've basically had it in our possession. We had one or two friends that bought it for short periods of time and had some fun with it, but it's been in our possession basically since 2010, and over that 10-year period, we've done everything we can to make the car as good as possible without doing another restoration on it. When I got the car, it was missing some of the items that I would say any Dino, if you're buying it, you want to have. So I went to Ferrari literature and I made sure that we got some important pieces. So in the trunk of the car is all the items that I collected over time. This is the original triangle that you pull out if you got it, broken down at the side of the road. You fold it out. This piece comes out and it sits on the ground like that. So that's the original Dino triangle with its original case. Sorry, we're doing this video at my house because we're all coronavirused in. This is just a written description of the car from Mr. Scherer. He was the person that bought it in, I think, 1980. So in sometime between 71 and 1980, the car had a front end collision. He bought it, he did all of the work to it, and he wrote the story and took pictures of all the things that he did over time. And he actually came and visited us last year from his home in Switzerland. This is an original Dino brochure that I also got from Ferrari literature. That goes with the car. This here is when we took it to the Canadian Concours d'Elegance in 2014 and won a prize there. I don't think it was best to show, but it was something along those lines. So there's a trophy that will go with that. This is the Dino owner's manual. This is what we got with it when we bought the car. It's just a photocopy of the owner's manual. When we get in here, I'll show you I have the original. These are all receipts, copies of different appraisals that I had done over the years, receipts for all the things that were done to it, a letter from the previous owner that we bought it from in Canmore, the provincial inspection when we brought it into British Columbia from Alberta, and that was, I'm just looking for the date here. It was in 2004. We're running out of light.
It's okay, that stuff will all be in
Anyway,
the auction
all that stuff's there. A copy of the check for what was paid for it. Some work to Coachworks. This is an appraisal from Michael Ebinger for when he owned it. This was the gentleman that brought it from Germany to Vancouver. So there's an appraisal and some pictures of the car. Back in period, if you look closely, it had red carpets when we bought it, which I thought were horrendous. So we took those out. This manual was brought from the owner in Switzerland. When he came to visit last year, he brought these manuals. He said these were given to him by, he says, Enzo Ferrari. So I have no record of whether or not that is to be true, but that was what he told me. So I bought this toolkit from Ferrari literature, and I believe, from memory, I paid around, I don't know, at the time, $5,000 or $6,000 for this. And then we bought an original set of books and their original pouch. I think it says down here in the corner, it says Dino. And then you've got the original books, and it's a very, very complete set. So it's exactly what this car would have left the factory with in Europe when it was new. The original jack and its jack bag is there also. So this is something I have, doesn't go with the car. That's an original key tag. I think they're worth about $2,000. If somebody's keen on it, let me know, but that's a keepsake for me. Those are all the original items that are going to go with the car. I'll just set this down. So over time, the car went up in value, obviously, from $75,000 to what it's worth today, probably $1 million, maybe a little less. And it warranted doing the things that I think the car needed. So I had Coachworks Restoration do a complete paint job on the car, I believe in 2014 or 2015. I got to double check, but we'll provide you that invoice. The paint, there was nothing really wrong with it, it just wasn't spectacular. And because it was my own car, I wanted it to be spectacular. So we did a complete paint job on it. I put new XWX tires on because it didn't have the correct original tires at the time. And then I sent it down to Craig Calder at Fast Cars in Redondo Beach. So Craig's a great Ferrari shop. He does the Concours d'Elegance every year at Pebble Beach. Always has cars in there. And I basically sent it down to Craig. I said, use it, drive it, make sure everything works, clean up anything. So all this wiring stuff and whatnot, I wanted it to look correct. The air conditioning system, obviously over time, didn't work. So he fixed that. I don't know exactly what he did, but we have the invoices that go with the car for that. So the air conditioning system works now. All the windows, all the switches, all the gauges, everything works. I don't know if the oil pressure or oil temperature gauge is working now. It wasn't the other day, but we'll have that fixed before the car gets shipped. But you know, it's in my opinion, one of the best looking cars you'll ever see. When you're sitting in the car, this line here, these big hips, they just look so cool. And they're the best lines of almost any car, I think, on the road. The engine bay here, we had Fast Cars do a cleanup on it. Basically, I just wanted everything to look as correct as possible. And prior to doing any work on it, I contacted Matthias Bartz, who wrote the book, The Dino Compendium. If you don't own it already, and you are thinking about buying a Dino or own a Dino, buy it. It's one of the best books for cars I've ever seen. So I wanted to double check that all the numbers match on this car. So we had all the pictures taken, sent them to Matthias. He confirmed the build records, and then we talked to Marcel Massini also. He gave me the contact information for the owner that had it in Switzerland, and we talked to them, and ultimately they came and visited. So I think for the most part, this car is, you know, as correct as you're going to find a Dino. The inside of the car, I refinished the dash with the correct mouse fur dash material. I put all new carpets in. Trying to think what else we did. And basically just went through it end to end to make sure everything worked and you know, visually looked the way it should. Personally put at least 2,000 kilometers on this car, and one of the greatest things about it is every time you get into it, it starts. It doesn't let you down ever. It's just a tremendous driving car. There were some suspension noises that I noticed early on in the years. We had all those corrected. Gearbox shifts great. The car starts when it's cold perfectly. Like there's nothing that I would say is a concern with the car at all. One of the coolest things that I think goes for this car is the original color is that Verde Gremolio, I think it is. probably pronouncing it wrong. Somebody will watch this and cringe. But it's Kermit the Frog green from the factory. And if you've ever seen one in real life, I saw one at Concorso Italiano in Monterey a couple years ago. And it was actually around the time that I was about to paint this car, and I thought, should I do it? But then it meant pulling the interior out and doing all that and everything, so I didn't bother doing a color change. And you know, part of me is glad I didn't, because red on Ferrari just always looks so good. So shoot us any questions you have. To anybody buying the car and taking it to the US or Europe, will help you with any of the shipping arrangements that you want to make, and make sure that car gets to you in one piece. I'm sad to see it go, but you know, there will be another, they always say. So thank you very much.